So we came into this week saying this was another classic take care of business type of week for the Lions. And what ensued was one of the most anxiety inducing, just heart racing roller coaster type of games as the Detroit Lions found themselves down by 10 to the New York Giants and somehow mystically, mysteriously, magically even they managed to come back in the dying moments and win it in overtime, a game that had no business being as close as it was, but it's certainly easier to complain after a win. Welcome into the Payne and Drain show, everyone. Earlier episode in the week this week as we prepare for Thanksgiving. My name is Zach Payne. I'm one half of this show, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Alex Drain. Alex, how we feeling after whatever that was?
Well, it's an interesting game. A lot of people talking about how it was indicative of things going downhill for this team, and certainly if they had lost it, it would have been. But at the same time, I was thinking about it, and there was another game in the Dan Campbell era that was almost identical to this game in similar ways. Do you recall which one I am alluding to?
I'm assuming you were referring to a 2023 game against the Chicago Bears at home, where the Lions once again found themselves down and scored two touchdowns to take the lead, and then Aiden Hutchinson sealed the game with a sack in similar fashion.
And it was the Sunday before Thanksgiving. It was the exact same point of the schedule. So we have
With
been
the
there
same
before.
matchup, too. Hopefully, we don't repeat what happened that Thanksgiving, though.
Yeah, so similar point in the schedule, and that was definitely a game. Had a lot of things to discuss, but at the end of the day, I guess a win is a win, and it was a really pivotal win because, as we talked about last week, they have to win those kinds of games, like that one, the Steelers game in December. Cowboys, we can have a discussion about, but I mean, given the other games you're up against, it's seeming pretty important at the moment because of how hard the rest of the schedule is. So if they had lost that Giants game, playoff odds would have been not great. But as it stands now, they're still alive. So just survive in advance.
Yep. So, as we get into this game, there are a lot of things that we have to talk about, a lot of positives, a lot of negatives coming out of this one. But the biggest story is just one man that single-handedly carried this team to victory. I'm surprised he was able to run as fast as he did with the backpack that he had to wear. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's now on pace for over 2,000 total yards. He's on pace to match the 20 total touchdowns that he scored last year. In the last two seasons, he's consistently been the second best running back. Last year, he was second to Saquon Barkley, who had an incredible season. So far this season, Jonathan Taylor's having an incredible season, although Gibbs is outpacing him efficiency wise. Just plain and simple, is Jahmyr Gibbs pound for pound the best running back in the league?
I haven't watched Jonathan Taylor enough. Colts games haven't really they've overlapped with our games a decent bit, and they haven't been
What
on
I
my
mean by that
TV.
though, what I mean is like over the last 2 years, he's been number two. Barkley's not in the top three this year. Taylor wasn't in the top three last year. So just over the last two seasons, has anyone been more consistently great than Jahmyr
Probably
Gibbs?
probably not. He's certainly right at the top in that. I think firmly top three, top two ish, something in there. You can make the case for number one. It doesn't. I don't know. I'm not too concerned about that. We'll see how the all pro voters handle it, but he was definitely essential in this game. The explosiveness is just really huge because of the lack of explosiveness in the passing game, which we will have to discuss. But especially as it got to overtime, it felt to me like if Gibbs doesn't just house one, we're not scoring a touchdown. Like that's how it felt by the end of that game. Like that's how they scored the touchdown to complete, get the comeback in the fourth quarter, and that was how they had to score the touchdown to win it in overtime. Like it just there was so little reason to believe this offense could string together a drive and actually punch it in at the end. They needed a big play, and he delivered three of them in this game, two for touchdowns. another one that got inside the 10, I think. And uh, no, they couldn't have won this game without him. No question about that. He was their best player.
264 yards from scrimmage. That is a franchise record for the running back position. Even Barry never had that many yards in a game. Three more touchdowns. He is now past Amon-Ra St. Brown for fifth on the Lions all-time scorers list. He is he has more than a touchdown per game in his career, and he's played over 40 games. He's just absolutely spectacular. As you said, the explosiveness that his second touchdown of the day, the one that was the catalyst for the comeback, was arguably the best run in his career so far, breaking multiple tackles in the open field and then pulling away at the end. It was fantastic. The run blocking, I will give credit. We got to talk about the offensive line later in a negative way, but run blocking was for the most part super solid in this game. They gave Gibbs the lanes that he had to hit. And in overtime, the Penei Sewell clip is so funny because they run behind Sewell and he gets turned around and he sees Gibbs in the open field and he's like, "Yep, that's a touchdown." Like he just knew. And that's just the kind of game it was with the Lions when they had those lanes open up and Gibbs hit them, things were happening. When Gibbs wasn't hitting those explosive runs, which obviously you can't hit every single play, the offense certainly did struggle a little bit. Now, we this is a weird one because we have to be positive and negative about this guy. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 9 catches for 149, and yet not necessarily a good game from him as he adds a couple more drops to his season total. We are reaching like legitimate levels of concern with this guy at this point. And again, he had 9 catches. Like we have to acknowledge that. That part was good. When he caught the ball, it was good. The problem is he's dropping way too many routine passes right now.
Yeah, it was funny to see the PFF grades after the game. I think they came out yesterday, or when I saw it yesterday, because he was one of the Lions' top graded players in this game, and I was like, "What? Like, are we talking about the same guy?" And then you look at the stat line, and people are like, "Well, look, this was he had a lot of yards, he got a lot of catches." I'm like, "Yeah, that makes sense." I mean, especially on the drive to get the tying field goal in the fourth quarter. They hit him two, three times on that drive. He was pretty wide open. So, like, the connection is there, but at the same time, the drops are just a huge problem. And it's hard to figure out what's going on there. I know there's been some discussion of a wrist issue that could be contributing, in which case,
Miss a
I
few
don't know.
practices, please. Like,
I'm not really ready to deem that as a reason enough to excuse this situation. But also, with the amount of catches he's getting, I don't want to take it away from him, but there's also a huge problem with this offense right now where they are leaning on that way too much. And Goff is just forcing balls at him. So it's nice that he's mostly catching them when they arrive, not all of them, but mostly. But you just wonder what it's kind of taking away from the rest of the offense that they've become so reliant on it. I mean, right now, this is a two-dimensional offense. They
yep.
have Jahmyr Gibbs, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's it. There's no the involvement of Jameson Williams is all over the place week to week, and there's little to no involvement of anyone else. I mean, David Montgomery has been locked in a closet somewhere in the Ford Field, uh, you know, under rooms somewhere, but we haven't seen him. And Cleve Raymond had one or two catches in this game. Tesla had a target. Brock Wright had a couple, and I mean it's just a two-man show right now.
This is from Colton Pouncey to further echo that point. He tweeted this out yesterday. Only 6.8% of the Lions' pass attempts this season have traveled 20 or more air yards, dead last in the NFL, and it's currently the fourth lowest rate in a single season in the last decade. The Lions, to put it simply, do not throw the ball downfield. If they do throw the ball, it is short and intermediate over the middle to St. Brown. There is no interest in pushing the ball downfield, which is so funny because that was the one thing that John M. Morton promised was going to be a part of this offense when he was brought on. And in the offseason, we heard the vertical passing game. That was the only thing that was talked about for Detroit is how aggressive they were going to be, giving their guys one-on-one opportunities, pushing the ball downfield. And there's been absolutely none of that. It's been a completely empty promise. Obviously, Dan Campbell's taken over play calling, but I can't imagine that he's sitting there content with how bland this offense can be at times.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to bring up the air yards thing as well because that's just it just can't happen. They have to take some shots. Like, just try it. I mean, I know it's been off at points this year, and Goff over the past couple of years, some of his like worst interceptions were throwing deep into double coverage or whatever. But at some point, you have to give it a shot because safeties are starting to roll down, and when they're just sort of check down Charlieing this offense, it's not getting you anywhere. And part of it is related to the fact that they don't get a lot of DPIs. Like I was talking about this with my dad during the game we were watching, and he was saying we don't get a lot of pass interference calls, and I was like, well, they don't throw a lot of the back shoulder, the jump ball, the kinds of routes that tend
Yeah.
to get those calls. And that's a problem to me. Like I know they don't have a jump ball guy yet because they're not really using Tislar. They don't think he can do it, but um just give someone a shot. Like right now, the amount of the swing passes in this game in particular, like they
Oh,
ran some screens, but the amount of just pure swing passes to the running back, like leaking into the flat for a few yards, way too many on third down still.
almost cost them the
There's
game.
almost cost them the game. That one on the final sequence there was terrible. Lost them yards, set them back. They're scrambling. I mean, that was just they have to try it deep. Just two, three times a game. Do something to keep the defense honest because this is not working right now.
And to a part of that is Jared Goff, even when he has these shots dialed up, again, that last swing pass at the end of regulation that lost 5 yards. On that play, Goff, he's under a little bit of pressure, but he has time. And if he looks downfield, Amon-Ra has his man beat one-on-one with no safety over the top. It probably would have been like a 30-yard gain, maybe even a touchdown. And he doesn't even look at it because he doesn't trust his protection, which brings us to the offensive line. First things first, Coyote Awosika had a horrible game in pass protection, gave up multiple sacks, multiple pressures. Taylor Decker was getting beat a couple of times by Abdul Carter, which he hasn't had a great season. I know he's a top three pick, but he was getting a few too many pressures for my liking. Penei Sewell did a good job against Brian Burns. Penei Sewell didn't allow a single pressure, but everyone else on the line, not a good day in pass pro at all. The Giants' defensive front was doing a lot of damage, especially, honestly, mostly to Jared Goff's psyche, if anything, forcing him out of a lot of these passes and just ends up with checking it down to Gibbs in the flat.
I actually liked or thought Ratledge was fine in pass protection, which that one can often be a problem, but I didn't have a lot
Yeah.
of things from him in this game. It
My
was
thing with
definitely
Ratledge is that when he actually gets his hands on someone, he's good, but he gets messed up with the mental too much.
Yeah, that's fair. I just the right side didn't seem to be as much of an issue. Glasgow was not good either in pass protection. So it just kind of feels like to some degree this is what it is against a good defensive front, and particularly one in the pass rush game. Like obviously we'll see what happens with the Packers this week. Although the Packers, I don't know, are tackles as good pass rushing? I know they had a decent game against us the first time around, but
I
it
was,
tends to be more their edges with Gary and
yeah.
Parsons. I'm more worried about.
Parsons will be over the middle too a lot. That's going to
Yeah,
be
that's
a
yeah,
a thing. Like Parsons will just line up wherever.
right.
Depending, I don't know how much it's him improvising versus the defensive coordinator, like being like put him over the center or the guard. But Parsons will move around. Devontae Wyatt is so hit or miss that like with that first game against the Lions, he destroyed Tate Ratledge a few times. But I do think it's more Gary and Parsons. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, so Uh, but just against teams, particularly with good interior pass rush, it's just kind of gonna be an issue. I think this year, maybe if Mahogany comes back in the playoffs and he plays better, and Rowledge is just really streaky week to week.
Yeah.
That the run blocking has generally been pretty good, but the pass protection, there's weeks where he gets by rather unscathed, and then there's weeks where he just can't hack it at all, and it's a big problem. So, and Glasgow, unfortunately, I just feel like
Cooked.
this is where we're at, and we're watching the final games of his Lions career, and then we'll move on in the off season. So that feels to some degree like where it's at the moment, and they just have to figure out some ways to keep Goff on his game, knowing that there's going to be protection problems because he's just been really rattled recently. And so I
How do
don't
you
know.
fix that though? Because this is his Achilles heel, is that when he doesn't trust his protection, he doesn't like he freezes.
I mean, we talk about this a ton, but just like a lot, like the JMO shallow cross, right mesh concepts, slants, just something to make them back off a little bit, and because just the way they're able to key in, especially in passing downs, and the Lions' response has been all screens, just a little bit over the middle, like you could just, I don't know, I'm just trying to run through my head of what you can really do in this situation. I mean, that's where the fade comes in, right? Like play to slaw a couple times, just do a quick two-step drop fade sort of thing, just something to avoid him in those true drop back situations because once the other team is establishing that they're getting that rush, Goff has just been super skittish and the processing has not been as good. The accuracy not as good. Like the interception with Amon-Ra in this game, obviously he needs to catch it. It hits him in the hands, but it's also behind him for no particular reason. We've been seeing this with Goff a little bit these last couple of weeks where he's not quite as dialed in from that standpoint either. And this was another game too. We should mention that they're able to drive somewhat well through their own territory, and they just seem to hit a wall around the opponent's like 35 to 40-yard line. And in this game, they end up punting from around midfield or slightly in Giants territory 4 times, which
Yeah.
that was kind of the Eagles game too. So it's two
Eh,
weeks in a row where they're just running into this imaginary wall.
I was laughing because in the post-game video that the Lions post after wins, like the locker room celebration, Dan Campbell gave a game ball to Jack Fox because he had 4 punts inside the 20 and like three inside the 10. I'm like, that, like, okay, good that Fox was good in those situations. If you're punting in the situations where Fox is getting 3 punts inside the 10, that means you were too close to be punting a lot of times. And not in the sense that the line should have gone for it, but you can't keep stalling out in the no man's land part of the field, like just over midfield, but before the 40, 35, where you're not quite in field goal range. It's not great. As you mentioned with the true passing downs, the Lions are down to 25th on third down conversion rate in the league at just 36.5%. So roughly 1 out of 3 times they're converting a third down. The Lions were better on 3rd and 7 or shorter in this game against the Giants, but anything like this has been a long established problem at this point. At 3rd and long, you might as well punt on third down because the Lions are not going to get it.
Yeah, I just feel that's the book is out at the moment with this
Yeah.
offense, and they have to find a way to kind of reinvent themselves down the stretch. And to me, that starts with just trying to keep to look for JMO again. Just get him in the mix, or try to feature. We used all those
Yeah,
picks on Tesla. Give him a shot. I don't know, like just try something besides what what's been going on here.
the JMO thing is so weird because he did have a like 35-yard catch called back for
Yep.
an illegal man downfield, which it's a shame because it was actually kind of a good play, like the little screen up the middle, I guess, or like semi screen up the middle. It would have worked great, but Glasgow got too far downfield too quickly. And then he has 3 targets, 0 catches, had one sort of drop on the outside where the DB kind of gets in his vision, but doesn't actually tip the ball, but it kind of messed him up. So I don't want to call it like a full drop, but one that he could have caught. And then a couple others where it's just like Goff and him aren't on the same page on anything further than 15 yards downfield. I just want to see a attempt down the field. Like the touchdown at the end of the Vikings game, give JMO a chance. Why not? Because if it's one-on-one coverage and if they drop a safety, you know that JMO's at least faster. So if you give him a chance to run underneath it, maybe something happens. I don't know what the answer is because if they have used him on shallow crosses a little bit in the past few weeks, but then that was gone today, so or on Sunday. So it's just this JMO saga is so bizarre.
Especially when you're coming off a really good game against Philadelphia, and then to
Hmm.
then just go to 0 catches. And JMO did have a pretty egregious drop in this game, in addition to the called back screen. Their screen game was actually fine. in this one, like the
Yep.
actual design screens, because they get a touchdown on a 3rd and long, like the 11-yard line, which was like a sweet play with Amon.
But the fact that they needed a third and goal conversion from the 11 after how that started, like the first and
Yes.
second goal on that sequence was so horrible. Like that's a different
Right, and
conversation though.
that's like this is the execution problem that they've been having in this season and then in this game, because you have that one. You also have an interception in plus territory.
Yep.
You were down, was it 3 points at that time? Something like that.
Yep.
'Cause it was right after the Gibbs long touchdown. Like they were right back in the game. Momentum was on their side. The crowd is fired up, and they just do nothing. And they punt from plus territory. And so you got that one. You have the fiasco at the end of the game, or the end of the fourth quarter, having to kick that field goal. Like, it's just, like I said, it felt like they were going to need long touchdown runs to win the game because they're just not capable right now against decent defenses at stringing together. And I know the Giants are supposed to be a decent defense, but they present challenges that are direct matchup problems with the Lions along the defensive line, which makes it a problem. But if they're not playing an unserious unit like Washington, there are major issues right now at just the consistency to string together a 10, 12 play drive. And it's pretty stark because even you go back to start of the year, like they struggled in the Green Bay game, but then they looked really good for a few weeks there. And I know Cincinnati was bad and Baltimore maybe not up to par. And Chicago, I think, is probably an okay defense. Like, that wasn't the hardest competition of all time, but they did have a few weeks there where they stacked high offensive performances, so longer drives. I mean, remember that Ravens game, there was the like 16, 17 play drive where they were able to make it work. And right now, it's regressed over the course of the year. And right now, you're at a point where over the course of drive, you don't know when a sack is going to happen, which kills your drive. You don't know when Goff is going to miss a throw or throw it into the ground. You don't know when a receiver is going to drop a ball. You don't know when a penalty could set you back. Like there's just so many things going wrong at different points that are just killing all of these drives. And they just got to clean up execution. Like there are always going to be matchup problems, but players aren't executing well either. So it's just kind of a multi-layer mess at the moment.
Yeah, and we talk about the interior of the offensive line a lot, and we will continue to because that is the Achilles heel of this offense right now. But the fact is, one thing being wrong with this offense should not lead to everything being wrong with this offense. And this drop back passing game is probably the worst it's been since Goff's first year in Detroit, where he didn't have anyone to throw to. He didn't have any, he had like half of an offensive line, and he didn't have an adequate offensive coordinator. So the fact that the drop back passing game has gotten so bad in the last season in a bit here is truly shocking. And we'll just have to hope that they fix it. But it's starting to get late for them to start showing serious improvement on some of these deficiencies. Aside from that, is there anything else offensively you want to mention?
No, I don't think so. I think we've touched on just about everything.
So, the defense. Where to begin? Before the season, would you have guessed that the first 300-yard passer they would have allowed would be Jameis Winston?
Um, I would have had to look up where Jameis was playing because I probably didn't know at the start of the year what team he was even on. I mean, I here's the thing I'll say about this in general. The Giants have been in a number of games this year. Like
Yep.
that's just one thing to note. They don't have a good record, but this has been a competitive team. I mean, they lost in the last second to Dallas in overtime. They had that horrible game against the Broncos. They should have beaten the Bears and then it unraveled. They were in a really tight game with the Packers last week. They beat the Eagles earlier in the year. So this has been a frisky team. And Jameis himself is like the ultimate guy. Like if you're picking most, backup quarterback most likely to throw 300 yards on you, and you're not allowed to pick Nick Mullins or Matt Flynn, then you got to find who then, and it's got to be
Who
Jameis.
flings it
Like
downfield?
right, only homers, no bunts, the whole thing. So he was designed to do this, but I don't know. It kind of felt like to me we cursed them with the victory lap last week about the defense, saying that how good this unit was, and then I don't know, we got too confident or something. But I also want to give a shout out though to the Giants receivers. Like that's as a part of it
Oh,
too. They made some catches in this game. That touchdown in the end zone with the toe tap, that was great. There were a couple along the sideline. Like Jameis was slinging it, and they were making some plays.
yeah. Theo Johnson, the tight end, had like three mossing toe taps on the sideline in this game. It was crazy. Wandale Robinson had a career game. Obviously, he had got a big chunk on the first trick play touchdown of the game. And that's another thing. Giants run two successful trick plays for touchdowns. I don't even want to talk about the second one because it was like watching a horrifying car crash in real time, but you couldn't look away. Where the Giants run the Philly specials or reverse back to the quarterback passing play, but the receiver can't throw it at first because of the pressure. So he has to run up in the pocket and then throws on the run. In that time, Derek Barnes recognizes that Jameis is leaking out and abandons his rush to go try to cover him. And bless Derek Barnes, because you guys know I love him. That that's a pretty wild career low light to get mossed by Jameis Winston and then fail to secure the tackle and allow him to break the tackle into the end zone. I I, I got no words. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Both of those plays were interesting because they were both ones that, for most of the play, didn't seem like it was going to work. Because the first one, they throw it back to Jameis, and I think was it Tyleek or was
Yeah,
it Lee McNeil? They
Tyleek
were
almost
right.
murdered Jameis on that
Yeah,
play.
there's a guy right there, and he just gets pushed out of the way. And I was looking at that for a block in the back. I think it was to the side, so I think they probably made the right call there. But he barely sidesteps the tackler and then throws it. And then this one, the receiver is running around in the pocket, and it kind of looks like you're thinking this is going to be the JMO interception in the Commanders game, right? We've seen that many times where the wide receiver shouldn't throw it, and then he does, and he gets it away, and Jameis, dunks on Barnes and somehow breaks that tackle, and you're just like, oh my god, what is going on here? And those plays also are examples of the Giants like coming to try and win this game. They made a lot of plays on offense, and those trick plays in particular were really good because the Lions were just kind of over aggressive in this game. Safeties were definitely biting hard in the run game. And they also got the Lions several times on those double LB blitzes, where Lions send both linebackers clear out the middle. I'd have to go back and look to see who was supposed to, take the middle of the field with them out of the picture, but they check into little just check downs to Tyrone Tracy, and there is nobody there for 30 yards and just catch and run. So like they were playing off of how much the Lions were coming after them, and we're just smoking them, really.
Yeah, it was a very frustrating game from the defense. There was the screen game was working decently for them as well. Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone against the run were very good, but in coverage, eh. Anzalone got dunked on a couple of times by the tight ends, and Jack Campbell, there was one screenplay where he just got caught looking at the eye candy and Tracy leaks out for, again, 30, 40-yard gain. Another, going back to the trick plays, very up and down game for Thomas Harper because he had the first trick play where he just sprints right by Wandale, doesn't even try to cover him. But then later in the game has an interception, which was fantastic. Unfortunately, the offense did nothing with it. But Thomas Harper, I think we're starting to see more of a clear picture of what he is as Kirby's replacement, where he's fine. He's adequate. He's a adequate third safety, but he's gonna get beat every now and again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an expectation for a player in his mold. He makes a huge play in this game, which in another world should have been, a game-defining play that swings it to the Lions, and instead it kind of gets forgotten. But that was one of the only plays anyone made all day. I mean, this was just
Yep.
a really sloppy, unfocused effort. The coverage was very porous as a whole. Guys running open way too often in this game for the Giants, and the tackling in the run game at times was sloppy. Obviously, the tackling on the Barnes one was sloppy. They just kind of again, just unfocused, sort of like the discipline that we've seen in the past hasn't been here in recent weeks. And on offense or defense, like they've been able to survive this year and have good results offensively. I mean, defensively, just because I think they have talent and stuff. But like, this is this thing we talked about with giving up the edge so much in the run game. Like all year, it hasn't been fixed. Um, it's just lack of discipline too. Like, I mean, the Brian Branch just continues to get flagged.
Stop hitting guys in the head, man.
It's pretty frustrating.
Now, yeah, and another aspect is the pass rush, which was, let's say, inconsistent. Ali McNeil is doing a good job of penetrating and getting pressure. He's not really finishing plays yet, though, so that's work in progress. And then Al-Qadi Muhammad was useless in this one. Tyleek is not that much of a pass rusher. Aiden Hutchinson, what a bizarre game from him because watching in real time, I was like, man, this has been a bit of a quiet Hutch day. But then I looked at the stats after, and it was like he led the team in pressures. He had like six QB hits, which was a franchise record, and obviously he had the game-winning sack. And yet I was like, it didn't seem like he was that had that loud of a game. And then I saw this quote from Giants right tackle Jermaine Illuminor. He gave up the sack to Hutch on the final game, and he said, this was his quote after the game. How do I say this respectfully? He did not do a damn thing all fucking game. He strikes me as the type of guy that would try to celebrate that one play, but for most of the day, I was on an island with him and he didn't do anything. Obviously, I'm pissed about the last play, but at the same time, there's not much you can do. They know what you're going to do, and he still tries to give me his best move, and I run him by the quarterback, and he manages to run back upfield and get the sack. And people took that and were like, wow, that is a spicy quote for a player to give after the game about an opponent. And then people started rightly pointing out that Hutchinson was chipped and doubled and triple. Like he was getting the normal Aiden Hutchinson treatment all day. He respectfully was not on an island for most of the game. And he still had six QB hits and five or six pressures. And Illuminar gave up the most pressures of anyone on that Giants line. It was a very bizarre narrative coming out of that game. That said, Hutchinson, a couple of those QB hits came on plays where like one where he rushes over the guard and just weaves through traffic, one where they block him with a tight end, one where it's a designed rollout to Hutch's side. A lot of plays like that. What did you make of the pass rush as a whole and then Hutchinson with this matchup?
It didn't feel like it was enough from the pass rush. They've gotten at points in this year had gotten pretty good pass rush. Again, it sort of feels like the last few weeks less so, but we should note that last week against Philadelphia, they were not
Trying.
going out for it as much. They're just trying to sit back and keep Hurts in the pocket. So I think this week will be a kind of a telling story, right? Because, okay, Giants game, bit of a down one for the pass rush. Now it's the Packers. You're less worried about Love scrambling. Like he could, but it's not Hurts. And they're going to need to get pressure on Jordan Love. Like you just can't let him sit back there forever. I don't think that's something that they're going to want to do. So that will be a big story in this game, in the upcoming game. In this one against the Giants, it just didn't feel like enough. They were just kind of getting a little bit of rush here and there, but there weren't a lot of like sack evasion from Jameis. There was like a one or two that I can remember, but
There's the fourth. There was the one with Al Qadid where he couldn't wrap up, and then there was the fourth
yeah,
down in overtime where he just runs for a first down because they over
yep,
pursue.
yeah. That was about it. Um, it does. I don't know. It when Ali McNeil came back, that first game he looked really good. Then the last few hasn't been as sharp. This one I think he was probably better than the previous couple, but still working his way back. And we need to see more of Muhammad making more of an impact. It's
Yeah.
been spotty the last few weeks. Hutchinson can't do it all on his own. He comes up in the biggest moment. It wasn't his best game anyway. Just across the board, this was a pretty poor showing from pass rush, run defense up front at least. Coverage was terrible, tackling iffy. It just was a bad day.
Well, the run defense is so weird because, and I'll pull up the box score because we were talking about the problems setting the edge in this one, where the Lions once again struggled to set the edge, and the Giants running backs seem to be doing better. But then I looked at the box score and I was like, the Giants averaged 3.1 a carry on 39 carries in this game. 39 for 122. Not exactly a banner day for the rush. So, for as much as the edge setting was a challenge at times, the middle of the defense, like Tyleek and DJ Reader, are still doing their thing in the middle, and the linebackers are doing a good job of cleaning up the mess on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the run defense, it's really felt like the linebackers are the biggest story. Like the defensive line's okay, but just the ability of Campbell in particular to be just a game wrecker in the
Just
run
be
defense.
everywhere.
Right. He just finds it, shows up, stops it. But there were just a couple of 10, 11 yard chunks that and particularly in the later like that the drive for the Giants towards the end of the game where they get into range and then they don't get the touchdown. That one there were just a couple runs in there where it was like, ugh, we need to
Yeah.
stop and they're not quite getting it. We should also say that there was that one play. Was it against DJ Reed where like the ball is like a rainbow that goes up and the guy
Oh,
comes down with it? I just
yeah. By the way, welcome back, DJ Reed.
yeah, I know he comes back in this game and it wasn't a great showing from him. Robertson was not good at all.
Oh, Robertson cannot cover fast guys. Like Wandale cooked him all day.
Yeah. So if there's one good thing to say about the defense in this game, though, they did make a couple of massive stops. You go
Timely.
back to
Yeah.
the right, but just big moments in the game. You go back to the first quarter. They let's see, it was the third drive of the Giants. They generally got worked down the field, 10 plays, 87 yards, but they got down to first and goal on the 8, then second and goal on the 5, third and goal on the 3, and they slammed the door and they forced a field goal, kept it at 10-0 after the field goal. That was huge. If it's 14-0 there, that game is pretty dicey pretty early, and then again, the end of the game, Giants moved the ball some on them. 14 plays, 86 yards, just kind of plotted their way down the field. But then it got to first and goal at the 4, second goal on the 2, third and goal on the 2, slammed the door again. And that held them, because then they go for it, they don't get it, gave the Lions a chance to drive and tie. Like when it was really on the line, they delivered in the biggest moment, but also how poorly they played in the rest of the game is why it came down to those drives.
Yep, pretty much. Aside from that, is there anything else that we have to say about this defense going into Thanksgiving here?
No, we do have special teams things to talk about, though.
Yes, we do. Take it away.
Okay, well, Jack Fox, as you mentioned, pretty good in this game. He was punting from short territory, but at the same time, we've seen punters just blast one into the end zone, and that would have been pretty devastating. Instead, he pins them at the 8, 10, 12, 7, and 8 across 5 different punts in this game.
Yep, that'll
And
do.
field position was quite important. So that's round of applause for him. Jake Bates makes his extra points, good from 37, and then the kick of the ages from 59.
Weaving its way through Ford Field because the football is not allowed to travel straight in Ford Field for some reason when you kick it. Jake Bates, for as inconsistent as he's been over 50 yards this season, we now have a year and a half of sample size. This dude is clutch.
Yeah, he's had his wobbles, but he's now I think 4 for 4 in game tying or winning field goals. They said in his rather short Lions career to date. That one just that the way that drifted and then kind of just like turned back in, like it looks like it's going, and then it
I
just
thought he missed. I'm not gonna
and
lie.
that was that one was good from 59.5. Like it just barely squeaked over the upright, just barely tucked itself in or over the crossbar, just barely tucked in the upright. You know, you don't get style points. You just get points for going in, and he got it in, and he bailed out the offense. Like
Yep.
absolutely, if he misses that kick, that final drive is being just picked apart in the
Yeah,
analysis.
we are sitting here screaming about the 5 yard swing pass that lost 5 yards, which cost them the game. Like,
Yep.
shout out Jake Bates.
Yeah, and on that note, in terms of decision making, I didn't have any issue with the punts that they had. They were all from medium to long yardage,
Yeah.
like fourth and 9, fourth 14, fourth and 8, fourth and 9. So it was all from like around midfield. But this offense can't go for any of those in their
No.
current their current state. So no issue punting there. And then weird incidents in clock management in both the first and the second half here. So the end of the first half, they drive and get that field goal. Why didn't they use the timeout on the throw to Khalif Raymond? He catches it down the seam. He's like 20 yards upfield. There's about 23 seconds left when he catches it. By the time they run up and spike it, they've burned about half their remaining time. And now the timeout, okay, you have it, but what good is it really going to do now? There's not a ton you can do at that point. I didn't get that one.
I think we're back to the conversation about is Dan Campbell overtaxed? Because if he's not the one calling the offense, I think he's able to sit back there and worry about the clock a little bit more objectively instead of being in the moment and trying to call plays. So one of those where someone has to help him out, or that's another reason to get a different offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, by the time they spiked it, it was down to 8 seconds, which at that point, I mean,
You could have had 22 or 23 seconds, and worst case, you have time to spike it if you get sacked.
right. So that was bad. And then again, at the end of the game, the drive to tie it on the field goal. Why did they spike it with a minute 13 to go? That made no sense to me. It's a minute 13. It's not 10 seconds left. Like, you're just burning it down for no reason. And just go up there and run a play. And so they spike it. And then apparently their helmet communication goes down
Oh
and they
my
have to
Lord.
call a timeout.
Yeah, their last time out, wasn't it? Like they have
Yeah,
to.
what?
So you burn your last time out after a spike with over a minute to go. That is completely inexcusable. Like
I mean,
even
at that point,
if the
just take a
hell,
delay a game. Right? Like,
yeah. Well, and if the helmet communication went haywire, then Goff should just be able to go up to the line and be like, "Hey, look, we just got to call a play. Get up. We'll do some simple slant play and then go." Like Goff knows the offense like the back of his hand. He should be able to figure something out, like improvise.
and that was a bizarre 1 minute of game time because they go up and they spike it, and I'm like, why? What? Why? Why are you
And then,
doing that? There's
and then they
plenty
have
of
to call
time.
timeout.
Right, and I'm like, we're sitting there 30 seconds lamenting that spike, and then all of a sudden you look and the play clock's at 10 and they're just standing there and they're looking very confused, and I'm just like, now what's going on? Like, what is happening? And so then they have to use the timeout, and then that ends up forcing Bates to kind of run out there. Not just does he have to kick from 59, but as we should have noted, he had to kick from 59 on a 40-second play clock. Like, just go out there, set up, kick it
Yep.
from 59, and he manages to make it. So again, special teams, they really let the offense off the hook. But a game where it just the Lions looked unfocused, disorganized, unable to execute at the rate that we're expecting. Not a good showing, but they're able to somehow emerge with a win. And we just have to hope it can get better in coming weeks. But the trend of this season is that it's trending the opposite way, and it's going downhill in the last few weeks. And they're not running out of time, but the clock is starting to tick on how many
Yeah.
weeks they've got left in the season to figure it out.
Yeah, there's two ways this can go, right? Like this can go downhill and you end up as the seventh seed or miss the playoffs entirely. Or this is 2023 where there's just like this little blip around Thanksgiving and you figure it out in December. Like they could easily turn it around. They could easily keep going downhill. All we know is that this is not working right now. So we'll just have to see. Aside from that, is there any last things you want to mention about this game?
No, not about this game. The one thing I'll say on your point there is they're in a tough spot here in schedule wise because they got 3 games in 11 days. I don't know how much can really be cleaned up against in between the Packers, and you still get just a standard week. Like, it feels like for larger scale changes, it would come after the Cowboys game where they have a little
Mhm.
bit more time to recalibrate. The biggest hope to me is that this was like the looking ahead to the next week sort of thing.
That I was thinking that like during that game, I was like, I wonder if the Lions were just like so fixated on Green Bay that they really overlooked the Giants and were like, oh, we're gonna win this game, it'll be fine. And then they got in the game, they were like, oh no, we need to do something about this. And then Gibbs stepped up. But that's the only cope I can provide is that the Lions are like, we have to win this game. because they do, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But first, we got to talk about what else happened around the league this week. So, speaking of those Green Bay Packers, they defeat the Minnesota Vikings 23-6. And every week that passes, that Vikings loss for the Lions looks so much worse.
Real bad. Like there's no
Yeah.
two ways about that one. I did you see the JJ stat from this game that was making its rounds?
Oh no, does that have something to do with the number nine?
No, he let me find this let's see here. He Okay, I pulled it up. JJ McCarthy now ranks 851 out of 852 in EPA per dropback among qualified passers since 2000 per True Media. Would you like to
Is-
guess who was the only quarterback that was worse than him, or has been, was worse than his start to his career?
to start his career, would it be like Peterman with the five
No,
interceptions?
no, it's a name that is the most notorious draft bust of all.
Oh, Jamarcus Russell.
It's Jamarcus Russell. That is 852 out of 852. JJ is 851 out of 852. The other one I saw, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it was something like JJ had a passer rating or QBR in this game of something, and it was like the that if he had gone 0 for 24 with 24 spikes, he would have had a higher rating than he had in this game.
If game on the line, you need one drive to save your season. You want JJ in there or Tim Boyle? And why is the answer?
David
Why is
Blau.
the uh, I'd rather remember the COVID Broncos game where they had to start a wide receiver at quarterback. I'd rather that, like just anyone else. The
It's so
JJ
it's
looks.
and now he's in concussion protocol. Um, I don't know, man. This is a bleak situation for the Vikings. I still think they've invested too much in him to just be done after the season, but they're
We'll
going to
find out.
have to bring in somebody. Kyler Murray, I don't know. Whoever's getting removed from his current team is going to have to come in and compete with him.
It's a shame that they don't have a security blanket that they let walk to Seattle, who's now having a very good season. Um, So aside from that, Packers they win, which kept the Lions out of the playoffs for now. Obviously, the
By
Lions
the way, did you see the fumble in this game? I think it happened during halftime of the Lions because I was watching it briefly.
was the
Uh,
punt.
Yes, where the returner decided he's not going to field the punt, so he starts blocking, and then he like gets blocked right into the punt. Like he starts blocking in front of where the punt is about to land.
That was really bizarre, but and that was when I was like, "Yeah, the Vikings lost. Like the Packers won this game. They just got gifted a touchdown and positioned inside the
Yeah,
five. Like it's over." So Green Bay. I mean, I've harped on Green Bay for not winning very clean games throughout the season. There you go. You won a decently clean game against the Vikings, so good for them. The Colts and Chiefs, what a bizarrely good, interesting game. That one goes to overtime. The Chiefs win 23-20. They get back over 500. I was really rooting on their downfall in this one, but oh well. Hopefully, we can still have some things go right to keep the Chiefs out of the playoffs. The Bears defeat Mason Rudolph and the Steelers barely. The Bears continue to be the luckiest team in all of football with the schedule that they're getting. One curious thing that I will mention in this game, it seems like DeAndre Swift has lost the backfield to Kyle Monangai, Monangai had 12 for 48 in this game, Swift just 8 for 15. Seems like Swift's career may be on the downturn here.
would you like to guess the point differential of the 8-3 Chicago Bears?
I know it's negative. I think is it -4, -8?
It's -3. 289 points for, 292 points against. So that Lion blowout is still denting their point differential, but they also lost by 14 to the Ravens too, and they won two games by 1 point. They've won a game by 5 points. They won a game by 4 points, a game by 2 points, and a game by 3 points. So they are the close game merchants so far. Really interesting game for them against Philadelphia coming up this Friday. It feels weird to me. Black Friday NFL games are supposed to be like
Yeah.
supposed to be like Jets Browns, not Eagles Bears. Like that's actually a fairly compelling game.
Is this the most fraudulent 8-3 versus 8-3 matchup of all time? Like
There's a case for it.
the Eagles should just wipe them, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how Caleb does with a ton of pressure in his face all game. Uh, Outside of that, the Ravens beat the Jets by a couple of scores. Hardly a pretty game. The Jags defeat the Cardinals in overtime. The Seahawks beat the Titans by one score. It was a blowout, and then the Titans kind of crawled their way back. One noteworthy thing, JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, is now on pace for 2,000 yards this season, which would be the most any receiver's ever had. So Calvin's record might be in jeopardy once again. We'll have to monitor that down the stretch.
It
The
was always it was always going to fall when they went to 17 games. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
when.
it's yeah, it'll happen at some point, but we could hold on. The NFL, a certain subsection of NFL media took a victory lap as Shadur Sanders wins his first start against the Raiders. Not looking particularly good, but they won. So now Josina Anderson, I guess, can do jumping jacks and celebrate this one. We'll see what he looks like against a real team. The Raiders suck. Like they fired Chip Kelly. The Raiders are lost right now. The Eagles below a 21 nothing lead to the Cowboys, losing on a last second field goal. That game, Dallas looked so hopeless. And then the Eagles stopped playing. I don't know what happened. So many fumbles in the fourth quarter. This was a true choke job by the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, noting that Dallas kind of ineptitude is what allowed the Eagles to get to their lead in the first place. I mean, Dallas turned it over on downs at the midfield. Their first drive of the game, Eagles get a short field touchdown. Then a fumble by Dallas gave the Eagles the ball. Another interception by Dallas. Like they were shooting themselves in the foot, and then it kind of turned around. And the Eagles had a bunch of punts in a row, and they missed a field goal. They had that fumble, which was very funny. And then the Dallas punts, Eagles fumble right back. Dallas takes over on the 8-yard line and do not score. They go from first and goal at the 8 to turning it over on downs. The Eagles get one more drive. They punt. Then Dallas has the winning drive, and Aubrey hits the field goal. Cowboys are looking kind of frisky right now. They've won a couple of games in a row here to get to 5-5-1. We'll get to watch them against Kansas City on Thursday. That should be an interesting matchup. And then the Lions will be doing battle on another short week with them. Well, I mean a long week rest wise, but another Thursday game. The next week. That's looking like could be a pretty high scoring game.
Well, and you got to imagine the Cowboys have that one circled after what the Lions did to
Yeah.
them last year. So that'll be a fun one. Aside from that, Falcons beat the Saints. The Niners beat the Panthers last night with Brock Purdy looking horrible, but they still managed to win. And then Sunday night, the Rams absolutely destroy the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And at this point of the season, the Rams have got to be the Super Bowl favorites, right?
Oh yeah. I saw that they're now number one in DVOA. I think they're number one in offense and defense. They are.
I'm justified. Yeah,
Yeah.
they look so good. Stafford looks incredible. Devontae Adams turning back the clock as well. Their offense, there is not a single aspect of their team that doesn't look good right now. They've even got like Emmanuel Forbes, the former first round pick cast off from Washington, playing out of his mind in that secondary. Everything is going right for the Rams this season. And I thought that the Bucks would be able to test them a little bit, and maybe we could see how good the Rams really are. I know they went toe to toe with the Seahawks, but the Seahawks have a good defense. The Eagles beat them earlier in the year because of the blocked field goals, but I'm really scared for Week 15 all of a sudden.
I kind of wonder if it's going too well for the Rams. Like it
Fair.
could be a classic team that then has a drop off in the playoffs, but at least right now they
We
seem like they
we would know about
probably
that, hey.
that they probably have the inside track to the number one seed now in the NFC. And yeah, as you mentioned, that game in December not looking too inviting at the moment. It is, at least it's indoors. In Goff will not have to wear gloves, but well, unless they turn the AC way up. But uh,
It's LA. It'll be
yeah,
nice.
yeah. So that's kind of the pickle for the Lions looking at the math the rest of the way because if they are assumed to lose the Rams game, now you're at 5 losses. And
If you lose Packers, that's six.
now
And
the math's getting dicey.
if the Lions lose those two games, they would have to win out the other ones because then that gets you to 11 with the way the NFC West is. Someone's gonna lose a couple more games. There's no like they've got the Seahawks, Niners are eight or the Seahawks are 8-3, Niners are 8-4. They haven't had their bye yet. Rams are 9-2. At some point, they're gonna lose some games in there, and the Bears are gonna lose some games, but it's looking like the NFC threshold is gonna be 11 wins here.
Yeah, I mean, very well could be. Like Seahawks still have the Vikings, Falcons, Panthers. They do have Colts, Rams, Niners. Niners play the Bears and the Seahawks, but they also have the Browns and Titans still on the schedule. Like this is where the Lions' difficult schedule rears its head. It's also where the Lions throwing away a Minnesota game for no reason out of a bye week rears its head, and that could end up being the death knell if this team misses the playoffs. Like they are going to have to earn it the rest of the way because they fumbled one of the most winnable games on their schedule.
Yep. But obviously, the math gets a lot easier if they do manage to beat the Packers on Thanksgiving. So getting into this matchup, the Lions are 2.5 point favorites at home. It's a 1 o'clock start. It's a half hour later than usual on Thanksgiving. The Lions,
Which
they
people are
beat.
really mad about, by the way. That
Why?
it was just tradition. It was always 12:30, and then they made it 1 o'clock. So
Okay. You can yell at tradition if it's like, oh, the Lions are going to play at 6 o'clock now, and the Cowboys are going to be the early game. But I don't know, man. It's basically the same with. But regardless, the Lions, they won last year against Chicago. Hardly a convincing win against a bad Bears team. Thanksgiving has not been kind to the Lions in recent years. What is your confidence level that they actually step up and play a good game on Thanksgiving for a change?
not super high. I would like it to happen, but as you mentioned, I mean the first year the Bears game was a total fiasco against a not very good Bears team. And then in 2022, they did play a good game in that one against
The
the
Bills,
Bills.
yep.
Like they
Yeah,
were
that's
against a
fair.
much better opponent, and they rose
They
to
were
the
just
occasion.
outmatched.
Couldn't quite pull it out. But then 23 was pretty embarrassing performance against the Packers.
Packers.
They were bad defensively. They turned it over a lot. Last year, they were crushing the Bears, and then really
Left.
threw the game away and got let off the hook by Matt Eberflus. It was a win, but it didn't feel great. And it would be nice if they could finally have just a good effort and win a Thanksgiving game, especially against a team like the Packers. I mean, you have to imagine the Lions are motivated and they want to come back and win this game after the poor showing. And it's not like the Packers have been great. Like these are two teams in the Lions and Packers that have been winning in pretty uninspiring ways at points or engaged in not pretty games. Neither team has looked much like a Super Bowl contender, if you ask me, these last few weeks. So
No.
both teams have something to prove. Both teams want to stay within in earshot of the Bears. I mean, if the Lions win the game and the Bears lose to the Eagles, the Lions could be in first place at the end of the weekend. Like that's the craziest part of this situation where the Lions are straddling that line between like they could win the division or miss the playoffs, and both are very plausible right now. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me in this game is the big plays. The Lions have not
Yep.
they haven't given up many explosive plays on defense this year, but they gave up a lot of them against the
I
Giants
was
out of
gonna say
nowhere.
until last week.
and and the Packers are always the only dingers, no bunts offense. Like they're the team. They have like a 30-yard average depth of target on fourth down for some reason. Like they just take swings and they can look kind of bad for a lot of the game, and then Jordan Love will just hit some bizarre back foot throw and toe tap Christian Watson for a touchdown that rescues them against the Giants, and you're like, what is this? But that's their offense. Like that, it's not a down to down march you down the field offense. It's the big plays are what kills you against the Packers.
I miss Kirby Joseph for this game. Like this is the one where Joseph's been out for like 2 months, but I'm like, man, I really wish he was healthy right now because this is a game where he would be so valuable with his range back there. The over under on Christian Watson deep shots has got to be like 4.5 going into this game. Like he is going, you know that they're just going to chuck them to him. No Tucker Craft will help, but kind of matches the Lions no Sam Laporta issue. So two offenses missing a safety blanket out there. The other thing is I'm very curious how much Kelvin Shepherd will blitz in this game. I wonder if he maybe looked at how aggressive he was last week. It was like, maybe I'll trust my coverage a little bit more and just see what we can do with four rushers, pin the ears back and see if we can get home. Because blitzing is, I think, where they're going to get into trouble against the Packers when, like, they're going to chuck it up. And if Love is going to chuck it up in 1 second, anyways, I'd rather have two guys back there to defend Christian Watson than just trust like a Meek Robertson one on one. So I really hope that Shepard dials it back a bit.
Yeah, and I think on offense, week one we saw the Lions be totally stonewalled up front. They struggled to protect Goff. They could not run the ball at all. It just they really couldn't get anything going offensively, and that was the first week of Tate Ratledge and Mahogany was young. He's not around now, so we have Awashika. Can you run the ball against these guys? Because that's the biggest story, right? We talk about the Lions last year. The Packers are a team that has that too high shell. They want you to kind of just sort of dink and dunk it and force you into checkdowns. But when the Lions last year against the Packers, they were able to run the ball. And when they did that, they could then build their offense around it and go from there. In week one, they couldn't run it whatsoever. And that set them back, and they couldn't get the big plays against the Packers defense. That's the big question to me. Can they run the ball down to down? Can they get a couple explosives in the run game? Give Goff a little bit of breathing room, and then how much has the offensive line progressed since week one when it comes to holding up against the likes of Gary and Van Ness and Parsons, and as you mentioned, Wyatt had a big game the first time around. We're gonna learn some things.
Yep. And I know we kind of sound like broken records, always talking about, well, if the Lions can run the ball on offense, they'll be fine. And if they can't, they're in trouble. But that, once again, is what this offense is at this point. It is noteworthy for the Packers that Van Ness is going to be questionable. Edrin Cooper is going to be questionable. He had a great week in week one. Quay Walker was also
Yeah, he
great in
was.
that first game. He's questionable with a neck injury. Josh Jacobs, he missed this past game against the Vikings. He's questionable. The Packers have a number of injuries, and they are kind of matching the Lions' litany of injuries. Speaking of the Lions, one thing we should quickly mention, Josh Pascal and Miles Frazier, they have to make a decision on them. I'm just checking Twitter to see if they have made a decision because their 21-day clocks are coming to an end, and it doesn't sound like Dan Campbell was too optimistic about either of them, but it is worth noting. I really hope Pascal's okay. Terrion Arnold should be back for this one, working his way through concussion protocol. So the Lions are going to have most of their secondary. They're going to have their starting corners all healthy. So that should be a nice help. We never have to see Mollett on the field again. Oh, he just got waived 10 minutes ago. Arthur Mollett just got waived. So we definitely never have to see him again.
Arthur Mollett, we hardly knew you.
Well, thanks to that interception against the Bucks.
I do want to get one thing on the record about this game before we wrap up. Did you see that tweet from the Packers fan yesterday
Oh
about
boy.
the Lions should let that Hawaiian left tackle earn his paycheck Thursday and leave him on
Uh,
an island with Uno all game?
and everyone was just like, wow, I didn't know Taylor Decker was Hawaiian. uh,
It's such a bizarre tweet.
I love
First
Packers
of all,
fans.
he's asking for the backup left tackle to play, I guess, but he also thinks that Manu is Hawaiian, I guess.
Or he thinks that Sewell's Hawaiian and that he's the left tackle.
it's, there's many interpretations of what that's supposed to mean, and all of them are confusing.
And all of them are wrong. Like, is Khalif Raymond playing left tackle in this game? Like, but yeah, it should be a fun one. Thanksgiving game, always a treat. So hopefully the Lions can deliver a win in any fashion. I don't care how it happens. The Lions could play the ugliest game of all time and only score special teams touchdowns for all I care. As long as they win, that's all that matters because Not only is this important for the division race, if the Lions lose this game, they're taking themselves out of the division race effectively. If the Lions win this game, they have a chance. But more importantly, for pride reasons, you can't lose both to the Packers. So please, for the love of God, beat Green Bay, beat the Packers, FTP, all that. We're going to wrap up here. We'll be back early next week to preview the Thursday game against the Cowboys and recap this one. So if you've made it this far, be sure to hit like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Give us a follow and leave us a review if you're on a podcasting platform. You can follow the show on Twitter at Payne and Drain. You can find me at ZachPayne41, Alex at Alex_Drain, and we'll see you guys next week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, enjoy the time with your families, enjoy the holidays here, and we'll see you guys then. Till then, cheers.